One thing that we've been seeing lately that has just been truly shocking is the amount of debt that Americans are taking on personally for themselves in their household, as well as our national debt. You see this thing ticking up. It recently just hit over 34 trillion and counting, guys. It is just unbelievable how much debt is being carried right now by the average American. We're going to focus on people because that's what this channel is about. You know, the government, they're going to continue getting us further and further into debt, into oblivion, but people at least don't have to follow their example. But so far, many of them are, because the average credit card balance just jumped 10% year over year, okay? Now it's at a record $6,360, guys. That is crazy. That's the average amount that people are carrying. That's the balance that they carry forward every month on their credit cards. So if you're making the minimum payment and you have over a $6,000 balance, you'll basically never get out of that. When it comes to interest, continuing to spend with that card, it's literally impossible to get out of that much debt if you're not making sizable monthly payments to get yourself out of it. And it literally seems like just yesterday we were talking about how the credit card debt hit an all-time high at 1 trillion, right? Well, we have blasted past that $1 trillion number now, because now the new record is at 1.13 trillion, guys, and that is just for credit cards alone. It has nothing to do with anybody's mortgage, nothing to do with personal loans, nothing to do with home equity loans, none of that stuff. This is just credit cards we're talking about here. And take a look at this chart from the New York Fed that just goes to show you how much this has skyrocketed recently. Like literally, you saw somewhat of a peak right before the pandemic. Then it started going down, as you can see, when people got the stimulus checks and people were paying off credit cards. But now that inflation has fully rocked our society, we can see that this chart is going nowhere but up, guys. And it's going up alarmingly fast, really. If it keeps going like this, we could see credit card debt rise to close to $2 trillion in the next couple of years. That's how serious this is. And it's never been this high. This is a record high for everybody. And once again, the reason for this is inflation, because so many people think, whoa, the inflation rate's coming down, so that means everything's gonna get cheaper, right? Wrong. Because all that means is things are getting more expensive at a slower rate now. That's what inflation coming down means. It doesn't mean that you're gonna see prices go back to pre-pandemic levels on pretty much anything, guys. And I'm pretty confident at this point that we're never gonna see that. We're never gonna see prices on anything return to being as cheap as it was back then, because you just can't have a $6 trillion injection of money into our economy and expect everything to just stay the same in price. You know, it's impossible. And that's led us to where we're at today. And they say one of the reasons that people are falling behind right now is not just because of people using the credit cards more, but it's because people are falling behind on their monthly payments. So they're not able to continue paying off this credit card bill. And when you have a $6,000 balance, it adds up fast, especially at 20-25% interest on many of these cards. And we have the proof in the data, guys. This is not me making this up. This is not me saying this. According to the New York Fed data, credit card delinquencies have surged 50% in 2023. Okay, and people who are in serious delinquency, meaning that you're 90 days or more past due, reached the highest level since 2009. So here's the crazy thing. They say we're not in a recession and we're still headed for this supposed soft landing, but we haven't even hit the official recession yet, and people are already being burdened financially to the point as if we already are in a recession. That's why I keep saying this is already a recession, guys. People's finances are in a recession, whether you want to admit it or not, and this proves it. Now, when I look at this data about consumer spending and people's delinquencies and the rise of our credit card debt and how fast it's going up, that makes me pretty confident that this alone has the power to throw us into the official recession. And the reason is because 80% of the GDP in our country is based on consumer spending. So that's why you see the GDP figures doing so great, guys. Between the government spending and these credit card figures, it's no wonder we got these phenomenal GDP readings at the end of last year, because people are spending everything right now. But this can't go on. People are going to run out of available credit at some point. They won't be able to continue spending like this indefinitely. And when that happens, that will definitely be enough to put us in recession. That's my opinion. And of course, one of the main reasons for this is that people are not making the money that they need to make in order to pay for their ongoing expenses. You know, they keep saying, oh, wages have been outpacing inflation since May of 2023. Well, why don't you tell that to all these people who are carrying $6,000 on their credit card? Now, some people may actually be keeping up with inflation or beating it with their wages and just have poor spending habits, and they're just spending everything or more than they make, and that could be a part of this as well, which no doubt it is. But really, I think it's just a bigger reflection of what we're seeing with how people are handling their finances right now. They just cannot keep up with the rising cost of living. So the best thing you can do if you need to get out of this credit card debt is to get one of those balance transfer cards. That's what I did. You know, you transfer as much of your debt onto a 0% interest card that you can, and then you make sizable payments to that every month, as much as you can afford to make to pay down that debt. You have that window of 12, 15, or 18 months, whatever they give you, of 0% interest, and that's your opportunity to pay it down. And if you still can't pay it down by the end of that term, you just roll it over into another balance transfer card. That's what I did, and it works, guys. It takes time and it takes effort, and you can't continue spending on the credit card in the meantime. So it really takes a lot of discipline to get out of credit card debt, because what got you into it, you can no longer do. You can't continue with the same spending habits and still get out of credit card debt. All that money you were spending on the credit card now needs to go towards paying it off. If you ask me, here's another consumer spending factor that tells us we're already in a recession, guys. The car loan delinquencies, along with the credit cards, are also at the highest level that we've seen since the GFC, okay? And brand new data from the New York Fed just came out on Tuesday, a couple days ago, showing that 7.7% of car loan debt was 30 days late, which is the highest level since 2010. And just 1 year ago, it was 6.6%. So it's been over a 1% increase in just 1 year of people not paying for the car. Just like people rushing out to buy all these crazy expensive houses, people also went out and overspent on cars during the pandemic, and now the consequences are rolling in. You throw in a higher car price with the higher interest payments that people have on these new loans, and bingo, people cannot afford to pay, guys. So that's why you're starting to see the amount of debt on everything rise, and now the delinquencies are really starting to hit. It even says right here that the loans that were opened during 2022 and 2023 so far are the worst performing loans. That's because buyers have faced high car prices and may have been pressed to borrow more at a higher interest rate. Ooh, I wonder who helped them do that. Wow, look at this, guys. I'm here in Bell Harbor today by the beach. This is what happens when they don't do the beach restoration. Look how small this beach is. The water's here, and here's the chairs all the way up to the sand dune. There's practically no beach here at all. It's extremely tiny. The beach is basically disappearing. If they didn't do these beach restorations every couple of years here, the water would be all the way up to these buildings. Honestly, I've never seen it that bad before anywhere. This is really bad. And just to show you how much people are not paying their bills right now, look at this, guys. The credit card delinquencies of people who are 30 days late went to 8.5% in the fourth quarter of 2023, which is up from 5.9% just a year ago, which is also the highest level we saw since 2011. All of these delinquency rates, all of these debt numbers are all the highest that we've seen since the GFC. And yet they're coming out week after week and telling us we have the greatest economy ever and we're not gonna have a recession. Better yet, we're gonna have a soft landing, guys. If you still believe that after hearing these figures, I feel sorry for you, because this is all you need to know as far as I'm concerned. Like, if you don't know anything else about this current economy, but you know how many people are falling behind on their payments and how much debt people are taking on just to stay afloat, that gives you the true picture of what it's taking for people to survive right now. And unfortunately, since we don't get the bailouts that all these big companies and corporations do and the banks, you're not going to get bailed out from this debt, guys. You're going to be stuck with this forever, most likely. Just like the student loan debt, only a very few lucky people are going to get that wiped away. But for the most part, you're going to be stuck with the debt. I know I've kind of talked about this stuff a little bit lately, but I want to keep reiterating this because I don't think a lot of people realize the gravity of the situation, guys. The more people that continue falling behind on payments of any kind, no matter what it is, and the more people that continue to need to use the credit card to stay afloat, should be a telltale sign for you, telling you where things are headed right now. No matter how tempting it might be to look at the stock market and to look at the real estate market and hear what our government officials are saying and believe that to be truth, this is what's really true. This is what's really going on behind the scenes that they don't want to tell you about. Because the reality is the rich are doing just fine. In fact, the richest 1% of people across the world, they made nearly twice the amount of wealth as the rest of the world put together over the past 2 years, guys. That's how staggering the ultra rich are. And I think that's what's kind of distorting the current picture of reality right now, because a lot of spending, a lot of real estate sales, a lot of the all-time highs you're seeing in the stock market are driven by these ultra wealthy people. It's not driven by the average everyday American like you and me. You know, somebody that's a billionaire can afford to own hundreds or maybe even thousands of houses. And imagine how much money somebody like that has at work for them in the stock market right now, and it's no wonder it's hitting all-time highs, because the very top echelon of people right now are doing fantastic. There's literally two different economies right now. There's the economy for the rich and the economy for the poor. They say that the top 1% grabbed about 2/3 of all the new wealth that was created since 2022, which is about $42 trillion, which is twice as much as the bottom 99% of the world's population. First of all, I'm not mentioning this to demonize rich people. I don't have anything against people being rich, just so you know. And I'm just pointing out the disparities here to just show how big of a contrast there is. Now, one thing they say that we should do, because these people are getting so rich while the bottom 99% are just continuing to get poorer, is they say we need to be taxing the super rich and big corporations. That's our way out of today's crises. It's time we demolish the convenient myth that tax cuts for the richest result in their wealth somehow trickling down for everyone else. 40 years of tax cuts for the super rich have shown that a rising tide just doesn't lift all ships, just the super yachts. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that taxing the rich is the way out of all of this? Now, here's my opinion. The reason I don't think that we should be taxing the rich more is because who taxes the rich? The government, right? And you know who I don't trust? The government. Just like we talked about in our video the other day about who do you trust, who do you don't trust? I don't trust our government, guys. And I don't trust them to be the ones collecting the money from the rich. And I don't trust them to be doing the right thing with the money that needs to be done to help all ships rise, okay? Because they're just gonna help their own ships rise. That's what they're gonna do. And we know this because that's what they always do. But for example, if I knew for sure 100% that we could trust our leaders to tax the rich and take a little bit of extra money from them and help our society as a whole do better and help everybody's quality of life improve, then yeah, I don't think it would be a horrible idea. But we've already seen time and time again from what our government does that they can't be trusted to do that. And that's why I fundamentally disagree with this idea, because I don't have faith that the people collecting these taxes are going to use it to help you and I. And to show you just how much of a contrast in wealth this is here, a billionaire gained roughly $1.7 million for every $1 of new global wealth earned by a person in the bottom 90%. So if you gained an extra dollar to your net worth in the last 3 or 4 years, that's equivalent to a billionaire making an extra 1.7 million added to their net worth. That's how steep this is. Now, the part that I think is messed up about the rich getting richer is this right here. It says that a lot of the wealth was captured because of the rising food and energy profits that we've seen since the beginning of 2022. This report shows that 95 food and energy corporations have more than doubled their profits in 2022. They made $306 billion in profits and paid out $257 billion to shareholders. They also say that excess corporate profits have driven at least half of inflation in Australia, the US, and the UK. So this is the real problem that I have with this. You know, you have these corporations raking in record profits, but then they're allowed to keep charging all these price increases on everybody, guys. Like, they're crying that, oh, it's inflation, oh, it's supply chain issues, and oh, this and that. Meanwhile, they're raking in record profits, and you and I are helping them make those record profits. That's the part that's not right about this. If the government wants to do something, how about forget about taxing these people, and how about putting caps on how much they can raise prices on these everyday items that people need to live? Food and energy, I mean, come on. To me, that's not right, that these corporations can rake in these massive profits while everybody else is literally driving themselves into debt to pay for their everyday life. That's not a good thing. This isn't where we want to be in our society. Right now, it's estimated there's about 1.7 billion workers who live in countries where inflation is outpacing wages. So continually what we're seeing worldwide, not just here in the States, is that people are not making enough money to continue keeping up with the cost of living, guys. I'm not really sure how they plan on continuing down this road, because this is a game that comes to an end at some point. You can't continue having the mass of the world's population, you know, not even earning enough to keep up with inflation and expect them to continue buying your stuff. It just doesn't work. So they're saying that this is the largest amount of global inequality that we've seen since World War II, and that entire countries right now are facing bankruptcy, with the poor countries now spending 4 times more repaying debts to rich creditors than on health care. Well, we're going to be joining that club pretty soon with the way our national debt is going. But the answer that they want from this is they want to tax the rich more, and they're saying that the decades of tax cuts for the richest and the corporations have fueled inequality, with the poorest people in many countries paying higher tax rates than billionaires. You know, they use this example about how Elon Musk, his true tax rate between 2014 and 2018 was 3%, while a poor person in Uganda who makes $80 a month is paying a 40% tax rate. Now, I understand that that's not fair, but also need to look at a few different things. Number one is Elon Musk is getting probably hundreds of different tax credits, tax breaks from the companies that he owns and operates, and as well as investments that you make. You can take advantage of the law and lower your taxable income, right? But just because he's only paying 3% doesn't mean it's a lot. 3% of what? You know, if the guy made $1 billion and you're still paying 3% of that, that's still $3 million that he paid in just 1 year in taxes. You know what I'm saying? Versus this person in Uganda, yeah, you make $80 a month and you pay a 40% tax rate. So yeah, a higher percentage of your income is being taxed, but you're not really paying a lot of tax, if that makes sense. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm just saying that's how it works. I don't know, guys. I think this is a pretty touchy subject. Do you think that taxing the rich is the answer? Because to me, it seems like when they do that, all they do is they just incentivize the rich to find new ways to hide their money and new places to hide their money. It doesn't seem like it really does anything. It doesn't help them actually pay more in tax. And even if they do end up paying more in tax, you can guarantee our government will find a way to squander that money, and it's not going to go towards, you know, improving the quality of life of somebody who's only making minimum wage. So let me know what you guys think about all this stuff. I'm always interested to hear your opinions. Even if I don't answer the comments, I do read a lot of them, guys, because I just get so many comments per week. I actually did a little equation the other day, and I get over about 5,500 comments a week. It would take about 50 hours a week to answer every single comment that came in. So that's pretty wild. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.